The GOP will be in control of the White House and both chambers of Congress when President-elect Trump takes office in January. Speaker Johnson just spoke moments ago about the victories and what Republicans plan to do. Congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed is joining us now with more. Good morning, Nate. Big takeaways from what the speaker had to say. We didn't hear much specific mention of legislation, but did say it's a new day in America and wanted to be ready day one. Any other takeaways from that?
Well, look, they've been telegraphing major legislation that they hope to do in the first 100 days agenda as soon as the new Congress begins next January. But again, it's going to be, a really robust early new Congress. With that trifecta, they can pass so-called budget reconciliation bills, which means that they can extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those tax cuts, the standard deduction, even potentially change around some of the tax provisions that former President and now President-elect Trump had touted on the campaign trail, like no tax on tips, eliminating some taxes for recipients of Social Security. But again, a lot of changes are in store. Speaker Johnson not directly addressing any specific policy, but basically making clear that House Republicans are going to get to swift work once things get underway. It's going to be an incredibly slim majority, though, and he acknowledged that along with every other speaker. It's going to be really tough when this Congress begins to get that those legislative provisions in play simply because of those really narrow margins. The one person you didn't see up who is typically with House Republican leadership, the House Republican Conferencewoman Elise Stefanik. Of course, former President, now President-elect Donald Trump has nominated her to be the new U.S. ambassador to the UN. That means she leaves a spot in leadership, additionally leaves a spot in the House of Representatives representing the North Country of New York State. So again, this is going to be a very swift 100-day process, and we haven't even finished talking about this current Congress. They still need to pass government funding to avert a government shutdown before the end of the year. So again, it's going to be incredibly busy, and that's pretty much what the Speaker just previewed. But this is the first time we've heard directly from him since the House of Representatives was called late last night by our partners at DDHQ, making clear that House Republicans will have that majority and a trifecta between the House, the Senate, and the White House.
And clearly these folks are very happy, rightfully so. They know it's their show for 2 years.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of really seemed like a messaging moment, the New Day sign and all this stuff. And they, again, what fascinates me about politics, many things, but the big picture for a second, beyond the day-to-day weeds, is that one of the effects of the Trump years in this election is that there is a little bit of a role reversal here with the parties. The Republicans now are really selling themselves as the party of the working class and the working Joe. People want crime off the streets. They want the price of the grocery store to go down. And Democrats are the party now of the elites and the woke, as they say critically. Talk a little bit about just party identity right now, because Trump has kind of changed the math and the identity of the parties with his political success this time around.
Well, an important caveat there, Rob. He's changed the identity of maybe the leadership of the party. Again, Speaker Johnson touting what he wants to do in the next Congress. Of course, still not a surefire guarantee that he can be Speaker of the House with that extremely narrow margin. They could have trouble in January like they had 2 Januaries ago selecting a Speaker of the House, and then last year when Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted. But again, in terms of that new messaging, yes, on the top, Republicans making clear that this is a much larger coalition than they've had in the past, that they've increased their margins in some cities, that they've, changed some of their policy base to reflect some of that. But what's interesting about the Republican conference is that they have to deal with members on the backbench who are still going to want fiscal, sanity, so to speak, to use their parlance. But again, there's going to be a struggle here, and that was kind of glossed over during the press conference today. It's going to be really difficult to get some Republicans in line who want to see spending cut across the board. Former President Trump, not necessarily a spending fiscal hawk, wanting to cut spending as much as some members of the House of Representatives or the Senate do. So there is an impending clash here that we could see come the next term, and that'll be a clash between leadership, who largely backs former President Trump, and some rank-and-file members who could very well say, no, if we cut taxes in these areas, that's going to raise the deficit too much, and we're not interested in doing that. So again, a rosy picture today, but it's going to be a really tough path in the months ahead to enact large parts of this agenda, and some of those calls, if you will, could be coming from inside the House.
And as a reminder, that puts Republicans in a position where they may have to compromise the Democrats sometimes. And because McCarthy did that,
Sure,
that cost him his job. So,
and those rules are still in place with Speaker Johnson.
Yes. All right.
Yes. Well, that was the question. That was the question I did not get to ask the Speaker. But again, motion to vacate. Just all it takes will be one member of the House of Representatives to say, I don't like the Speaker, let's oust him. So again, without changing that rule, it could be a really precarious coalition for Speaker Johnson in the next Congress.
All right, Congressional Correspondent Nate Reed reporting. Thank you, sir.